I remember I was taking a shower inside the school change rooms, and out of nowhere, my teacher ends up walking in, which was so bizarre because she walks into the shower I was in, and she comes and grabs my eggplant. I had no idea why she was in the boys' locker room, but let's just say things got really weird after that. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane but crazy story. So today's story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was back in my grade 12 year. Now, in grade 12, I was a major player, and I'm not gonna lie to you, doing the Devil's Tango was one of the main things that I was good at. But also, not only that, I was also really good at playing video games and also playing rugby. If you guys don't know what rugby is, basically it's like a harder version of football because you don't get the nice padding that football players do. And also, in my high school, we didn't have a football team, we only had a rugby team. So I remember what I ended up doing back in my grade 11 year was joining rugby, and I remember for the first year, I didn't do that bad. But in my second year, well, things got really intense. Because not only did I get a harder position to play in, but on top of that, a lot of people and teachers around the school started respecting me more for not only being just a basic student, but also an athlete for the school. At first, I thought it was a lot of pressure, but over time, the more I played, the more comfortable I got with it. But I remember there was this one specific day where things kind of felt really weird. Because I remember one day during practice, I was basically talking with my coach about, basically a play that I wanted to do. And every time I would ask him about it, he would always turn me down. I never understood why, but I think one of the reasons was that since I only joined for like the last 2 years of high school and not for the last 4 years, he didn't think I was experienced enough to be making plays. Which, to be fair, I totally understand. I don't have the experience like all the other kids in my team did, but I still kind of understood what the game was. So me talking to him about it, it ended up just me getting shut down. And obviously I was pretty annoyed by it. But right after I got shut down, I remember one of the teachers that was actually one of my science teachers, she ended up walking up to my rugby coach in the middle of practice. She ends up walking up to us saying, "Oh, hey, Bubba. Oh, and also, how are you, Mr. The teacher's name, which I'm not going to say because of privacy reasons. What are you guys up to today?" Just in the middle of practice. Bubba was just yapping about some kind of play he wanted to do, but I told him he needs more experience. I remember at that moment, I just ended up walking away and just going back into practice because not only was he gonna just tear me down, he also disrespected me in front of my science teacher, which really wasn't cool. But my science teacher noticed this, and let's just say she wasn't happy about it. Because once I ended up walking away, one thing led to another. They started arguing with each other on the field. My rugby coach and my science teacher. And when I walked up to my teammates, I remember they all looked at me saying, "Yo, Bubba, why is coach mad? What'd you do, bro?" "Nothing, I swear. I was just talking to him about a play, and then all of a sudden, he just getting upset at the science teacher." "Well, I mean, they're pointing at you right now. Did you like cause drama or anything?" "No, bro, I swear I didn't do anything. I don't know why they're arguing." I kept telling him this back and forth, and all the other guys were just like kind of worried. And then I remember my rugby coach ends up finally finishing the argument and walking up to the team. And when he walked up to us, I remember the rugby coach looks at me all upset, and he says to the entire team, "All right, guys, today we're going to be practicing our tackles. Bubba, I want you to stand across the field, and everyone else, you guys are going to practice tackling him down. You understand? Here, Bubba, get the ball." He ended up slapping the ball to my chest, and I was really just confused. Was this like a punishment? Like, why is he doing this? And then right as I was about to say something saying, "Yo, coach, are you sure I'm the only one?" "Bubba, why are you complaining? Do you want to be babied and get the science teacher to come down here and protect you, son?" At that moment, I ended up kind of just standing still, and I'm like, no, sir. I don't need the science teacher." "All right, perfect. Get down on the field right now." At that moment, I remember I was super annoyed and just super upset because I didn't know why, first off, the science teacher defended me, but also, why does my coach care so much? Like, did my coach have like a crush on the science teacher or something? I don't know, but I ended up going to the end of the field and basically started running into my team, getting tackled left and right. And right as I thought things couldn't get even worse, it did, because one thing led to another. It started to rain. So not only did the ground get all muddy, but on top of that, I was getting tackled and beaten down nonstop. I remember this almost went on for like 20 minutes. And as I was getting tackled, one thing I noticed halfway through those 20 minutes was that on the bleachers on the side where the cheerleaders would usually sit, I ended up seeing my science teacher just watching me get tackled. I remember when I looked at her face from far away, she looked like she was really upset and actually felt really bad for me. And every time I looked at her, she would just basically start clapping saying, "You got this, Bubba. Don't worry. You're amazing. Remember that." Even though she was the main reason why I'm the one getting tackled right now. This went on for another 10 minutes, and I remember afterwards, I basically was all covered in mud, totally disgusting, and it got to the point point where there was mud even in my hair. I remember I walked up to my rugby coach, and my rugby coach looked at me saying, okay, Bubba, I think you're done for the day. You can go hit the showers. You're done here. Wait, what? But practice isn't over. We still have like another like 30 minutes left. Doesn't matter. You can get out of here, I said. Start getting changed. I remember that moment. Everyone in my rugby team just started like communicating with each other and giggling. And as for me, I was just upset. I didn't know what made the teacher so mad. So what ended up happening was I ended up heading over to the change rooms, and I walked in there all mad. I opened my locker, and well, I got my towel that I had in there that I actually never used because I never liked showering in the school change rooms. But at this moment, I had really no choice because, well, I was covered in mud. So I ended up going into the shower and basically started washing myself off. I remember the whole time as I'm rubbing mud out of my hair, I was just super mad at basically everything, from the science teacher to the rugby coach to my team tackling me. Like, it was definitely one of the worst practices I ever had. But right as I thought things couldn't get worse, well, they ended up kind of looking up, but at the same time not. Because I remember my science teacher ends up walking into the change room. I don't know why she was in there, but she ended up walking in, and I heard her voice going, Bubba, are you in here? Hello, Bubba. At that moment, I didn't know if I should respond because, like, why was she in the change room? And basically, I ended up just staying silent and continuing my shower. But since I was the only one in there and the water was on, she could clearly hear that someone was in the showers. And what this teacher decides to do blows my mind, because she ends up walking into the showers fully closed, and she sees me wearing absolutely nothing, walked up to me and said, hey, I just want to say, like, I couldn't wait and I have to leave soon, but I just want to say I'm sorry. I get that, but I'm in the middle of a shower right now. Is it cool if maybe we talk about this after? Is what I told her. But for some reason, she did not care. And actually, she ended up looking down right after apologizing and said to me, wow, I know I teach biology, but damn, Bubba, look at you go down there. At that moment, I stood there frozen, and I grabbed my towel and turned off the shower and started basically going to get changed. But right as I thought this teacher was going to leave and get out of there, she ends up following me to the actual normal part of the change room where the lockers were, and she just watched me get changed. But right before I could put on my underwear, she ends up coming up to me and kissing me. She started to make out with me, and she ended up grabbing my eggplant, and me and her, we actually ended up doing the devil's tango. Kind of crazy and super bizarre, but at the same time, like, I never knew she had that kind of interest in me. From there, I remember me and her, we ended up doing the devil's tango for like 20 minutes, but then practice ended up finishing, and I remember hearing a bunch of guys heading towards the change room. At that moment, I ended up pushing my teacher off me, and I looked at her saying, yo, you gotta get out of here now. I'm gonna get in trouble. Okay, well, just don't say anything, okay? I'll leave you alone. And she ended up leaving the change room. Once she left the change room, I remember all the guys in my rugby team ended up swarming into the change room, and they all looked at me saying, yo, Bubba, you're all dry, but why does it look like you just came out of the shower? Like, you good, bro? Did you just stand here naked normally? Huh? Oh, no, sorry. I forgot my clothes, and I had to like change back into my muddy ones to go get it, and I was dirty again. It's a long story, is what I said. And all these guys looked at me as if I was a weirdo. But that wasn't even the worst part, because I remember after I got changed and I finally left the change room, right as I walk outside, I remember seeing my coach and my science teacher once again arguing. But they were right outside of the guys' change room, and they were arguing about why the science teacher was coming out of the guys' change room. I didn't really know what to say, so I ended up just basically walking out of there, and once I saw him, I ran away, because there was no way I wanted to be part of that conversation. But I mean, if you guys think that it's crazy that my teacher touched my eggplant, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. Hey, do you guys want to listen to these stories live, like actually face to face? Well, I made a channel called Bubba Live where I basically do this, and no joke, it's kind of weird. But if you guys do want to see these stories live streamed, then make sure you guys subscribe to the channel Bubba Live, where basically I tell these stories literally live. Now, please enjoy the story. I remember when my substitute teacher ended up giving me detention, and when I went in there after school, what this teacher ended up doing was extremely illegal. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another embarrassing but crazy story. Now, today's story all takes place back in my grade 10 year when I was in my biggest playing stage ever. No joke, I was like the #1 player throughout my entire school, and I could easily say my body count was going up like it was no tomorrow. And I remember one day in my grade 10 year when I was entering inside my classroom, I ended up realizing that inside my science class, I realized that my original teacher that usually teaches the class wasn't there. Now, at that moment, I was really confused on why, and I remember looking at one of my friends saying, yo, bro, is the teacher not coming today? Like, what's going on? I don't know where he is, bro. He's supposed to be here. And that's when out of nowhere, when I looked at the door, I ended up hearing a woman's voice saying, okay, class, everyone pull out your textbooks. And that's when I saw the finest woman of the entire land. No joke, this girl was like a 10 out of 10. And it sounds bad that I'm calling her a girl because in reality, she was like in her mid-20s and she was my substitute teacher. Now, most substitute teachers that I would run into are usually super mid or super ugly, but this teacher was like legendary. It was like pulling a shiny Pokemon card from like the rarest pack. And at that moment, when I saw her walk inside the classroom, I could not stop staring at her. And I think most of my class knew that she was also way too hot to be a teacher. If you guys ever had a hot teacher like this, then comment down below. But going on with the story, I remember when she stood up in front of the classroom, she ended up introducing herself, and that's when she said, so your teacher's a little bit sick, so I'm gonna be here for a couple days. And no joke, no one in the class was complaining. And I don't think there's a reason to complain. This teacher was way too hot. And I remember as days went on of me having my science class, everyone loved it. And it got to the point where rumors set out throughout the entire school that we had a really hot substitute science teacher. Most of my friends actually wanted to enter inside my classroom and sit down, even though they weren't part of my class, just to see this teacher. I gotta say, she was a highlight of the entire school. Even to the point where people started to find her on social media, and it was actually insane. I remember I even ended up finding out her social media on Instagram one day, and funny enough, I ended up pressing follow on her account. And she ended up following me back, funny enough, which I found super weird a couple hours later when I was playing Call of Duty. And I remember telling my friends on Xbox, yo, guys, the teacher followed me back. The hot teacher followed me back.
What, bro? No way she did. Why would she follow you back?
Bro, I have no idea, but this is insane. She's so hot.
Baba, don't cream, bro. She's literally our teacher. Don't be such a weirdo.
What do you mean? Like, dude, everyone in the school knows she's hot.
Yeah, but everyone in the school also knows she's the teacher.
Even though my buddy had a point, I gotta say, this teacher, once again, was the highlight, bro. Like, I think she actually motivated me more to go to school, which is really bad. You should go to school anyways. Don't do what I do in these videos, by the way. Like, seriously, just do your own thing. But going on with the story, I remember one day, after a week of our real teacher for our science class ended up still being away and we had our substitute, I remember I was hanging out with my friends at lunchtime. And I remember as I was walking with my friends, we ended up seeing the teacher walk by. Now, once again, I was a major player back in high school, like I said earlier in this video. So I remember I ended up looking at her and decided to shoot my shot. What does that mean? Well, I ended up yelling down the hallway, yo, teach, real quick. I was thinking, can I like maybe take you out for dinner in the cafeteria? I remember she ends up turning around and she walks up to me and she looks at me with an angry face saying, excuse me, what did you just say, Mr. Baba? I was wondering if, you know, you wanted to hang out at lunch? And me being super nervous from saying that, I remember my teacher ends up just saying, how about this? Instead of lunchtime, let's hang out after school in detention together. Ooh, is what kids start to say in the hallway after they just saw this whole thing go down. And I was super embarrassed. But at the same time, was I really gonna complain about detention with this teacher? Well, this is where the story starts to get insane. Because I remember when after school finally came around, I ended up heading towards my science classroom for detention. And I remember as I was walking there, my buddy ended up telling me, all right, Baba, well, I see you on Xbox later, but good luck in detention, bro. I'll be fine. It's the hot teacher. How bad could it be?
I don't know, man. Detention's for usually the crazy people that don't participate in school,
is what he told me. But at the same time, my friend was a total nerd. And, well, I hung out with him because he was really good at video games and still is to this day. But I remember from there, I ended up going inside my science classroom and the craziest thing ended up happening, where I ended up looking around and realizing my science teacher wasn't even there. I remember sitting inside the classroom anyway, and I sat down and just like waited for like 20 minutes. And knowing that she still wasn't there, I ended up giving it an extra 10 more minutes just so I could say I did the average detention amount, which is 30 minutes, by the way, if you guys did not know. And the reason I know this is because I had a lot of detention throughout high school. And basically, I ended up standing up from there. When I stood up, I remember I was about to leave, and then my science teacher finally ends up walking in. And she walks in on me about to leave, and she says, oh, I didn't know you were leaving detention. I didn't know you had the rules to do that. Oh, I was waiting for you, but you didn't show up. Well, what if I didn't want to show up? Why are you being so rude? Like, honestly, like, calm down. Excuse me? Are you telling me to calm down? You know what? That earns you another detention for tomorrow. At that moment, I ended up just sitting back down on my desk, and I'm like, bro, I don't get it. Why are you giving me detention? Oh, because you think you can just, like, you know, yell at girls and just say crazy things like that in the hallway. What? I don't do it to everyone. I just did it to you, and it was only the first time I've done that, which is not true, by the way. I've done it many times, which I know it sounds crazy. You gotta understand, in high school, I didn't know any better, but my teacher wasn't having it. The next day, I ended up doing the same exact thing, though. I ended up going inside detention, and even right before I walked in, my buddy once again says, Baba, I kind of find it weird how you're always going to detention. Like, what'd you do this time? Bro, I don't even know. Okay, I'm just gonna go inside. And me being totally annoyed and super upset, I ended up going inside my detention and sat down. When I sat down, I ended up seeing her already in the classroom, luckily enough, and she ended up sitting down and just marking grades on other people's homework while I just sat there doing absolutely nothing. And I remember I got so bored and just was bored of watching her grade tests to the point where I ended up pulling out my phone. And when I pull out my phone, well, that's where everything just went kaboom. Because I remember when I pulled out my phone, my teacher ends up seeing it and walks up to me. And she walks up to me and says, give me your phone right now. What? Why? Baba, give me your phone. No, I'm not going to give you my phone. You don't have permission to take it. Baba, I'm the teacher. Yeah, and I'm the student. Okay? Just because you're hot doesn't mean you get to have whatever you want. At that moment, when I said that to her, oh my gosh. No joke, what she ended up doing was so awful because she ends up making me stand up and says, Baba, you do realize what you just did, right? No. What did I do? And that's when this teacher ends up putting her hand on my eggplant area and she squeezes it as hard as she can and she whispers inside my ear, Baba, how do you feel now? And at that moment, I couldn't tell if I was in pain or if I was getting bricked. And I remember I ended up saying with a small squeaky voice, I'm okay, is what I said. And then she ended up squeezing harder saying, every time you think about making fun of a girl, just think of this moment. You understand? Like this exact one? And then she ends up squeezing harder and she says, Baba, control yourself. And that's when she ends up pushing me down back on the chair and she ends up kissing me. No joke. She literally just ends up making out with me. I have no idea why, but then afterwards she ends up pulling away from me and says, okay, I don't want to get you too excited, but Baba, seriously, control yourself. But you can go now. At that moment, I just stood up, got my backpack and left the classroom. And my jaw was to the floor. No joke. I could not understand what in the world just happened in there. But I gotta say one thing, it definitely wasn't legal. For my teacher to grab my eggplant and squeeze as hard as possible was mind-numbingly crazy. When I got home from school that day, I ended up hopping on my Xbox and I ended up playing Call of Duty with my buddy. And when I was on Xbox talking to him, I remember he says the funniest thing where he said, well, Baba, did you learn anything from detention? Yeah. Well, that's a good thing you learned something. Maybe next time you won't do what you did. Definitely not. Unless the teacher's really, really hot. Wait, what? And at that moment, I just started laughing. I don't think I ever told this story to anyone, honestly, and I wanted to keep it that way, but at the same time, since I'm out of high school and like I'm a lot older now, I thought it'd be okay. But honestly, if you guys don't believe this story is real whatsoever, then just follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.